Hey everybody, what's up? Today I'm going to try to break down Dimensional Hole into the simplest form to make it less intimidating. I know that it is one of the more intimidating things as a newer player, with so much other stuff going on that you have to learn and keep up with and try to remember. And now there's the Assassin's Creed collabs with all this extra stuff going on in the game. I understand that Dimensional Hole can feel very intimidating. I'd say it's probably the thing that I get the most questions about, is just how to approach it. How does it work? What am I doing? I think I get the most questions about Dimensional Hole. So I'm going to try to simplify it at the lowest possible level so that you understand, one, that it's not that scary, and two, that you need to get started and how to get started. All right, so straight out of the gate, when we come in here, the Dimensional Hole is where you're going to be farming experience to Second Awaken monsters, and it's also where you're going to farm ancient runes and ancient enchanted gems and grindstones, okay? Now, that is something that you don't need to worry about for now. Basically, again, in its most simplified form, ancient runes, that whole system, it's just like regular runes, but the substats have higher values. That's all it is. Again, it's not something you're going to be worried about for a long time. You've got a lot of monsters to Second Awaken. You need to be worrying about farming the other dungeons, getting your teams built, getting everything put together, and again, getting a lot of monsters Second Awaken. So ancient runes and stuff is later game stuff that you'll be worried about later. For now, all Dimensional Hole is for you is where you Second Awaken your monsters. You'll also see this little guy sometimes, the Predator, Dimension Predator. Ignore it. Not for you right now. It's very difficult, and it's later game stuff. So forget ancient runes for now, because you'll be wasting energy if you're trying to farm them in the early game. For now, the Dimensional Hole is where you Second Awaken your monsters and nothing else. So when you come into the Dimensional Hole, you'll see you've got all these wormholes, and then down here you've got your energy. Your max energy is 100. This is not like your regular energy. This energy is gold. It's very, very valuable. It takes 2 hours to refill one energy. All right? It takes over 8 days to refill from empty. Very, very valuable energy. That's why I say don't worry about the ancient rune stuff. You're not going to get anything amazing from the first couple of stages of any of these dungeons. It's going to be a total waste of energy, especially when you've got at least 10 monsters to Second Awaken right out of the gate. All right? So be very, very careful with this energy, and we're going to talk about how to be careful with it as well. You also can't refill this energy like other energy. I think once a week in the shop, you can buy 3. Where is it? In here. You can buy 3 of these. It's 10 energy. I think it's 120 crystals, and you can do 3 per week. All right? So you can get an extra 30 per week, which is going to be very handy. Again, we're talking, 60 hours worth of energy there. So it is a good idea to do, but it's not like a regular energy where you can just burn through it, and keep refilling it. So again, very important. Now, when you come into the Dimensional Hole, we've got these wormholes, right? Every one of them, when you click it, it's going to have a dungeon, and then it's going to have whatever its name is, remains. And the remains is where you're going to be focusing. The other thing is the dungeon where we farm ancient runes. That doesn't exist for you right now, all right? So the remains is always what you're looking for when you click on one of these, okay? When you decide who you want to Second Awaken, I've done a couple of videos about Second Awakening monsters, and I think Sath might be the one to focus first. I think Sath is going to do more for you first than Tattoo, but I think Sath and Tattoo are both really good options to do first. So let's say we want to do Sath first, the Fire Grim Reaper. His 2A dungeon is in Calderoon. We've got the Howl and the Grim Reaper dungeon, all right? The way that this works is when you decide who you want to Second Awaken, they have to be first awakened, right? And then they have to be on the team that you beat this dungeon with to gain experience. You're just accumulating Second Awakening experience to Second Awaken them. And when their meter hits 100%, you can do it. So for example, let's back out again real quick. I'm working on my Crow right now. I'm working on my 2A Crow. I've got him at 94%. We're almost done, okay? He has to go from his base form to his awakened form to even enter the dungeon. And then to go from this form to this form, this has to be at 100% and he has to be skilled up. So that's something to keep in mind. They don't have to be fully skilled up to enter the dungeon to start gathering experience, but they do have to be fully skilled up to fully second awaken. So for example, my Sath, I had all of his experience done before I had his skill ups done. And then when you second awaken them, they're going to get a new set of skill ups, right? So they're going to kind of keep what they already had, and then now their skills are going to have a different list of skill ups. And we'll talk about that again a little bit later. But to enter the dungeon, they have to be awakened. So make sure they do that, and then be working on the skill ups, because when it's time to second awaken them, they do have to be fully max skilled, okay? So we farmed the Grim Reaper on level 3. You'll notice each stage has its own affinity. This has nothing to do with who you're trying to second awaken. Okay, you don't have to like match the affinity or anything. You just have to match the monster. So I can bring Sath into any one of these levels and he's going to gain experience. The only difference is each level is harder and each level rewards more experience. So it's going to require less runs. I'll show you very quickly the most recent table from Com2uS that I can find on how many runs each level takes. So we've got level 1, you can see it used to be brutal. This used to be really, really rough, and you used to not even to be able to fully second awaken someone with a full pool of energy. They've now changed it where you can. So level 1 now takes 209 runs. So a little over 2 full pools of energy. And remember, we said it takes over 8 days to refill your energy. So that's going to take a while. Level 2 is 167 runs. Level 3 is 134 runs. Level 4 is 107, so just over 1 full pool of energy. I think that if you do level 4 in most cases, you'll probably regain 7 energy by the time you've done 100 runs, I think in a lot of cases. So you'll probably kind of be able to do it in one sitting, so to speak. And then level 5 is 86. So you can see level 5 is crazy efficient, but also level 5 is very difficult. I'm unable to farm level 5 for anyone that I've tried to second awaken so far. I have done level 4 for Tattoo and Crow, and I had to do level 3 for the Grim Reaper. Each dimensional portal has stipulations for the team. For the Grim Reaper, well, I should say for Calderon Remains, because it's the same thing for the Howl, you have to have 1 monster of each type, right? So that means you see these little icons down here in the corner. That's what it means. So if I'm trying to do Sath, he takes my attack spot. So that's my damage dealer. That's my attacker. Bella takes my defense spot, right? Vero takes, where's my Vero? Vero takes my support spot, and then Mav takes my HP monster spot. So it can be kind of tough. I couldn't get this working in stage 4, so that's why I had to farm stage 3. Whereas right now I'm doing my Inugami, and only Nat 4s or below. I can't bring Nat 5s into this one. For Tattoo, it was only monsters of the same attribute. So you could see where this could kind of be tough. Sometimes it'll work out in your favor. Like I think this one, it's a little bit easier to get a team for stage 4 going because you're trying to do Tattoo and she's fire. So fire's got advantage over wind. It's going to be a little bit easier. That doesn't mean it's easy. It was hard for me to find a team that could do this safely. Ren was my saving grace here, I think. I think without Ren, I would have struggled. I was trying to get Rauk able to do it safely. But Ren ended up stepping in and making it reliable for me. So you have to check the stipulations for every portal that you enter, okay? So the monster that you want to second awaken has to be on the team. We've established it doesn't matter what level you're doing, in the sense that it doesn't have anything to do with who you're trying to second awaken. As long as the monster matches, do the highest level you can. Now, when you are sorting this out, you have to do it in test mode. You cannot afford to flush energy down the toilet trying to find a team to farm, okay? You also don't need to be too concerned with speed here. Consistency is, I always say consistency is key over speed anyway, and especially in the early game. Here, it's mandatory. You cannot afford to lose energy here, honestly. If you're trying to be efficient at all, if you fail a run and lose an energy, you just flush 2 hours down the toilet, all right? You have to use test mode. You have to make sure your team is reliable. It's a real bummer when you lose energy in here. So use test mode, run a few runs, make sure they can do it reliably before you start running them through 10 battles, all right, in your repeat battle system. And then while repeat battle's going, you can still do TOA and guild stuff and all the other stuff you can usually do. But when you're sorting this out, you gotta make sure. You gotta use test mode. I know it seems like a pain in the ass, and maybe you think you don't need to, but you got to, all right? So I would recommend that you don't farm anything below level 3. I think level 1, in most cases, you could just bring whoever you have built in and get through it. I think level 1 is pretty easy. Level 2 is also fairly easy. I think if you can't beat level 1 and level 2 easily, it's too early for you to be in here. I think you know what I mean? And it won't take long. The game now gives you a lot of stuff to get a few monsters built straight out of the gate. It won't take long before you can farm at least level 3 in these dungeons. So if you can't beat level 1 or level 2, it's just too early for you to be in here, all right? Either find a new dungeon with different stipulations that you can farm, and that is still a monster that's going to help you out if they're 2-aid, or just progress your account a little bit further until you can come in here and at least do level 3. I mean, level 5 is, of course, the dream, but I can't farm level 5 yet in any of these dungeons so far, so I've had to settle for level 4 in most cases. And that's it. As you run through your battles, you can pop in and check how it's going and see where their secondary awakening experience meter's at. When it hits 100, as long as they're skilled up, you can go ahead and 2A them, and then you can move on to the next. Now, skill ups. Skill ups for 2A monsters. You can give them Devilmon. I think in most cases, I probably wouldn't bother. At least so far. I'm sure that there are some that are worth that. If you wanted to be crazy efficient about it, the way that you skill up a 2A monster is to feed them another 2A version of themselves, all right? Another 2A monster. That's a lot, man. That's a lot, especially in the early game when you're still trying to go through and just get all your 2As done. To dedicate a whole other 2A to a single skill up on one of these monsters, I think is a big commitment. And again, it's not, at least none of the ones that I've 2A'd, none of them are getting cooldowns, right? She's just getting a lot of damage, which is, I'm fine without it. You know what I mean? She's really just here to explode the continuous damage. I don't need her to have skill ups. Sath would probably benefit from a couple here. I'd probably like him to have those two. But these, again, they're just damage. I'm not bent up about it. And so far, based on everybody that I've looked at, that's kind of the way it is. It's like, if you can get the skill ups, nice. But I wouldn't give them Devilmon in most cases. You're almost certainly going to have other monsters worthy of the Devilmon. And while you're going through your roster and getting them 2A'd, I don't know that I would commit another whole round of 2A'ing someone just to get a skill up to potentially get damage 20% on Sath's A2. You might not even get the one you want. So I think skilling them up is also something to worry about later down the line. There may be some standout 2As that right away you want to skill up. I don't know who they are, if that's the case. But I'm not bothering myself with their skill ups for now. If I see someone that I feel like I just have to have skilled up, I'm going to be real with you. I'm probably going to give them a Devilmon. But if you want to be really efficient about it, you have to 2A other ones to give them skill. I can't just feed him a Grim Reaper for a skill up. Got to feed him a 2A, right? It's a lot. It's a lot to take on, and I think that's something you're kind of going to be worried about later. For now, just worry about getting monsters 2A, all right? I think that's it. I think hopefully that makes it feel a little bit simpler. You're just going to come in here, find the dungeon that matches the monster you want to 2A, farm the highest stage, use test mode to make sure it's safe a few times. We've talked about how to get them 2A'd. We've talked about skill ups. You're always going to just stay out of these for now. That's, again, something you're going to worry about later. You've got a lot of monsters at 2A. That's your priority. Be careful with your energy. I think that's it. I think that's probably everything I can think of anyway. Hopefully that simplifies it in a way that makes it not feel as intimidating. If you guys want me to, let me know in the comments. I'll start working on some videos for some teams for these dungeons, some free to play friendly teams to farm some of the 2A dungeons. If you guys want to see that, I'm sure that there's a lot of that out there, but a lot of the ones that I find seem to be like in progression with the beginning of 2A dungeons, not really new player friendly. So like a lot of the teams that I can find will involve like 2A Vigor or 2A Spectra, and it's like, well, I don't have anyone 2A yet, so how do I farm them without other 2As? So if you guys want me to start working on videos like that, let me know, and I'll start doing that. If you have any other questions or anything to add, drop them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. I hope that I covered everything, at least to make this feel approachable, and just so that you have a general idea of what's going on when you go into the dimensional hole and how important that energy is. That's really the big emphasis I wanted to make, is that energy is very important. Okay, 2 hours to refill one energy is a long time when you can't spend resources to refill them. So that's it. I'm getting out of here. I hope it was helpful. See you guys in the next one. Later.